Hey guys, thanks for coming back and joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Glad to have you back. So, in today's episode, we're going to cover 6 habits that will help you take personal responsibility for your life. That we talk about that a lot on our channel. It's one of the main tenets of what we preach, how we try to live ourselves. And look, we're good at it sometimes, we suck at it sometimes. So, the way to think about this is you should always try to be perfect, knowing that you'll never ever be perfect. And it's something that we've talked about it before, but it's something I learned when I was playing baseball. I was a pitcher, and so I was a starting pitcher for a while, and I was a closer for a while. But as a starter, it was always my goal to go out and throw a perfect game. Nobody gets on base, nobody gets a hit, I don't walk anybody, and off we ride into the sunset. I achieved that exactly 0 times. And look, I got my college paid for, had a chance to play professionally, and I never ever got that done, not once. So my goal was perfect game. Then if somebody walked, my goal was a no hitter. Somebody got a hit, my goal was a one hitter. If they got 3 hits, my goal is a 3 hit shutout. If they scored a run, my goal is a 3 hit, 1 run game. You've got to adjust as you move forward, but you own it. That's the most important thing to remember. So there's a lot of things in life that you don't have any control over. And you've got to learn to let those things go, not worry about them, not think about them, not try to control them. So some examples. You don't get to choose the family you're born into. Maybe you're born into an awesome family. Maybe you're born into a terrible family. I don't know. I don't know what your situation is. I know what my situation is. I know what the people around me's situation is, but I don't know anybody else's situation. So I'm not going to compare myself to other people, and I'm not going to worry about the family I was born into. They've got great points, they've got not so great points, just like I have great points and I have not so great points. I don't have control over that, so I'm not going to worry about it. The country you're born in, I would argue that we are some of the most fortunate people in the world, those of us in the United States, to be born into this country. It is the by far the greatest country that's ever existed on the face of the earth, even with all of the serious and real problems that we have in our country. Totally acknowledge those. I'm not discounting those. Even with all of those things, I would rather be in the United States than anywhere else to build my life. And we're very lucky to have been born here. More than one thing can be true at the same time. It can still be the best country that's ever existed while it's still got serious, big problems. And I think both those things are true. Are you short or are you tall? Can you control it? No, you cannot. So quit worrying about it. What's the color of your hair? What's the color of your eyes? Can you dye your hair? Sure, you can. Fine. But you were born with a specific hair color. You were born with a specific eye color. There's really no changing those things. That's how you were born. That's who you are. Just deal with it. Just accept it. Embrace it. Learn to love it. So those are all things that are beyond your control. They can have a big impact on your life. Is it a lot easier to build a significant business in the United States than it is in some third world country where there's not a lot of resources and the economy doesn't support small businesses? Sure it is. Sure it is. You don't have control over that though. You were born into the situation you're born into. Focus on the things you have control over, and that's your best chance to build the life that you're trying to build. So it's a fool's errand to think about those other things. Completely beyond your control. All it's going to do is frustrate you. It's going to make you angry. It's going to make you kind of spin into the spiral. Poor me, why me, victim mentality. That's not the place where you're going to build a great life for yourself. I know exactly 0 people that have a victim mentality that have good lives. And I would argue that it's largely because they have a victim mentality, which is, by the way, completely in their control to change. They just refuse to change it. And so we're not like that. We're going to take control of our lives. Our listeners, our followers, the people on our channel, we want a better world for ourselves. We want a better world for our family. And we're going to focus on the things we have control over. And we're going to really work on those things to be the best we can be in those instances, knowing that we're never going to get to perfection, but we can be a lot better at it tomorrow or 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now or 2 years from now than we are today. And that's what our goal is going to be. We're going to focus on the things we have control over, and we're going to try to be as good at those things as we can be. So, with all that said, with my diatribe out of the way, here are the 6 things that we would argue are habits that will make your life so much better if you focus on these things because you have total control over these things. Number 1, and it's number 1 for a reason. I think this is the most important thing on the list. Take full accountability for your emotions. You are responsible for how you react to what happens in your life. So I can tell you the thing that I struggle the most with is anger, for sure. And I'm so much better at controlling and compartmentalizing my anger now than I was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. There's been a steady progression of improvement on that for me. While that is said, I still absolutely do not control my temper in every instance. I still lose my temper. I still handle situations poorly. I am not perfect, but I'm much better at it than I used to be. Stoicism, and we've done several videos or episodes on stoicism. That lifestyle appeals to us because it's about taking control over what you have control over, one of those things being your emotions. And you can decide to focus on a negative thing that happened to you, or you can study it, learn from it, put it behind you, apply the lessons you learned from it going forward, and leave it behind you. You have the choice over whether you let that derail you, whether you stay stuck there for days or weeks or months or years, or whether you say, you know what, it's an experience I had. I didn't like it very much. Here's the things I learned from it. I'm going to apply those things going forward, and I'm going to move on with my life knowing what I know now. You have control over your emotions. And if you refuse to take control of your emotions, you're probably going to lead a very similar life to the one you're leading now, years and years down the road. Because if you don't grow as a person, if you don't force yourself to take accountability for those things that you are responsible for how you react to situations, you're going to keep reacting the way you're reacting. And if that's good, good for you. You're probably not watching this channel if you're super happy with everything and you think my life is perfect. I don't need to get any better at anything that I do. We need to get better at lots of stuff that we do. We fully acknowledge that and we're working towards that every day. So, number one is take full accountability for your emotions. If you focus on that, you're going to see a huge improvement in your life. I guarantee it. Number two, stop blaming other people. You've got to quit blaming other people for things. Even if somebody wrongs you, even if it's clearly something somebody else did, it doesn't do you any good to focus on it. It doesn't do you any good to stew about it. You need to stop blaming other people for things that are wrong in your life and start accepting responsibility. I saw a Tony Robbins seminar one time and it was brilliant. So there was a woman that stood up and she was blaming all the problems in her life on her father. This is an adult woman. And Tony Robbins said, great, we should call him now. We should call him and tell him about all these things. Get your phone out. So she gets her phone out and he says, before we call, I want you to be ready to give him credit for every good thing in your life, right? He's responsible for every good thing in your life, right? And she said, well, no. He said, well, then he can't be responsible for all the bad things. It's either one or the other. He's responsible for everything in your life or he's not. And so you need to take responsibility for your life. Even if bad things happen to you, you're responsible for how you react to them. It's the most concrete example of you can't blame other people for your issues or your problems that I've ever seen. And it's always resonated with me. So stop blaming others. We used to say when we played baseball, when you've got two strikes as a hitter, you have to expand your strike zone, and it's your job as a hitter to foul off pitches that are tough to hit until you get a good pitch to hit with two strikes. But if you take a close pitch and the umpire calls it a strike, even if it's not a strike, or if you don't think it's a strike, you gave them control and you're blaming the umpire for your decision. You can't blame other people for your decisions, for your plight, for your problems. You need to take responsibility for those things. If you can develop that mindset, it is so powerful because you feel empowered to take control of your life and build the life that you want. It is so freeing to say, well, if it's to be, it's up to me. That's the right mentality to have. And that's what we should be working towards. Number three, reflect on your actions. Have you ever noticed that people that wind up in toxic relationships keep going from one toxic relationship to another? What's the one thing all those relationships have in common? You. You could be the problem. You need to reflect on your actions. Do you find yourself in the same circumstances over and over again? Do you make promises that you don't keep? Do you spend money that you don't have? Do you blame other people instead of taking control for your life? You need to reflect on your actions. You need to figure out what the common denominator is. And that common denominator very well could be you making the same type of poor decision over and over and over again, unless you stop take a step back, be brutally honest with yourself, and assess or reflect on your actions, you can't change them. Because if you don't understand there's a problem, you're not going to change your behavior going forward. And you might be the problem. Like my anger, I talk about my anger a lot. I'm the problem there. It's not that other people do things that really piss me off. It's that I do a poor job of controlling my temper in some situations. And it's my responsibility to own that. It's my responsibility to identify that. And it's my responsibility to fix that, not other people. But I've got to reflect on when I do a good job, what did I do that allowed me to do a good job? When I do a poor job, what did I do that allowed me to do a poor job? And how do I eliminate those behaviors, those choices, those decisions going forward? So if you don't reflect on your own actions, you're doomed to repeat the same things you've been doing over and over and over again. And I don't think that's where we want to be. That's not why you're coming to our channel. I know that. Own your mistakes. That's number 4. If you make a mistake, own it. Don't point fingers. Don't make excuses. Don't try to explain it away. Own it. Own your mistakes. When something goes wrong, the first question you ask yourself should be, what could I have done differently to have delivered a different outcome, to have received a different result, or to avoided the situation that I find myself in again? These are your mistakes. You should own them. It's the only way to take accountability for your life. It's the only way to identify your behaviors and your emotions, your approaches to situations that may be causing you the same problems over and over and over again. Plus, it will get you tons of credibility with people. That's when people talk about a stand-up person. Stand-up people own stuff. Stand-up people own their mistakes. When they make a mistake, they admit it. I say a lot, the first rule of leadership is to deflect all praise and accept all criticism. So when something goes wrong in my world, what I try to do, and am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. But I try to say, hey, when someone says something good, hey, the team did a great job. The team was really excited. The team really dug in on this one and got it done. And if something goes bad, I'll make an I statement. We've got to do better. I've got to do better. I've got to be a better leader. I've got to be a better coach. I've got to be a better teacher, trainer, whatever the case may be. But own your mistakes. It's really, really important if you're going to build a life that you want to build for yourself, to be responsible for your actions and take accountability when things go wrong. Number 5, follow through on commitments. This is what I struggle with personally. I have a lot of things flying at me, and I will say things that I mean to do and not follow up on them. That's something I need to do a much better job of. I can tell you as I sit here right now, it's one of the challenges I face. Are there reasons that is the case? Sure. Does it matter? Not a bit. Not a bit. It's up to me to say, hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this done, but I will try to get this back to you. Or I will try to respond. I will try to call you back. I have a lot of stuff flying at me and I get disorganized and I have too many things to take care of, and some of them need to happen right now because the business is only open at this point, or it's got a huge negative implication if it doesn't get done right now. And the things that I might want to do that get pushed to the back burner, those are things I'm still accountable for. Those are still commitments I've made to other people, and I've got to do a much better job personally than I'm doing right now of following through on those commitments. But I own it. I acknowledge it. And that's the way that I can improve it, is by acknowledging that, hey, I'm not doing a great job of this right now. It's an area of my life I need to get better at, I need to focus on, and I need to improve. And that's the first step of changing behavior, is identifying the issue and acknowledging that you have ownership of the issue. So follow through on your commitments. Nothing wrong with saying no. Nothing wrong with saying, I'm not going to be able to get that done. Sorry. That's a much better way to be, because then you're not setting up people for disappointment or building an expectation where there shouldn't be expectation. Following through on your commitments is terribly important. And again, perfectly fine to say no up front. Perfectly fine to say I'm not going to get that done, or I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. That's a much better way to go than telling someone you'll do it and then not doing it. That'll catch up to you in the long run every single time. And then number 6, the last one, is practice I statements. I statements show ownership. I statements means I need to do better. I need to take control of this. I'm responsible for the outcome. I have control over this situation. By making those I statements, it triggers in your head that, hey, there's nobody else coming. This is up to me to fix. It is up to me to build the life that I want for myself, my family, my friends, the people closest to me. And by making those I statements, it'll drive that point home in your head that only I am responsible for the outcome here. Only I have control of this. I'm not expecting someone to come help me. I'm not expecting someone to come bail me out. Someone does come and help you, someone does come and bail you out. Awesome. Good for you. That's great. But you shouldn't count on it. You should be focusing on it yourself. You should be trying to control it. You should be trying to drive it to the point that you want it to be. That's up to you to handle those things. And those are habits, all six of those are habits that will really help you increase the personal responsibility in your life, taking ownership of your life, and really building a life that you want to build for yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to float on the river of life, and wherever it takes you, it takes you. Maybe it takes you to someplace awesome, and good for you if that happens. We would argue that you have a much higher chance or probability of success by taking ownership of the things you have control over and being kind of really, really focused and really tenacious about saying, I own this. It's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. That's a great little phrase to repeat to yourself when you're waffling about something or you're trying to shirk responsibility or you don't want to take ownership of it, knowing that you should. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's a great way to think about it. So hope you guys found this episode useful. We found it useful because it forced us to look at some of the things that we're not doing a great job of right now and things we need to get better on as well. So I personally got a lot of value out of putting this episode together because it's something, there are things in here that I can improve on and I should be improving on that I'm not doing. So hope you guys found it just as useful as I did, but it was very useful to me personally. So don't forget to head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All our podcast episodes are available there. All of our social media links are there. We do a weekday newsletter that you can subscribe to on our website. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful for us when you do that. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next time.